there's varying ways to handle this. Generally, and I'm saying generally, right now, the power base has been extraordinarily eroded. This is something everybody has to understand. Just like the mafia used to be able to reach out and make people a deal they couldn't refuse, the supposed bad guys here in this country can do the same. There's a problem with that. You got to be able to pay the guy to go do it, and they're running out of money, and their money has been limited, and they owe it to somebody. So everybody is trying to figure out what to do next. Do that question again, and I'll give another take on it.
No, you answered it. You basically went to the place where I wanted to go, which was mobilizing locally and being proactive, because people have a tendency in a time of change to feel helpless. I watched this with 9/11. I watched as people stood by and became depressed or angry, seeing what happened with 9/11. And how do we connect with those who are part of local networks that maybe are part of the loop that you're currently in? How do we identify people? Is there a way to do that organizationally?
Well, first of all, you get 2 or 3 people together. You start talking about it. You talk to somebody that lives, say, 5, 6, 8 miles away and get them to do the same. I have been in touch with a majority of militias and underground groups as far as my reach goes. And I would suggest U.S. militia if somebody wants to see if there's a militia group in their area. And there's varying other ones. You can put militia in and do a search for your state. A lot of the times you'll find that militia doesn't exist anymore. The gun club does. Okay, what's happened in varying states is that at one point the bad guys got scared. So they did major sweeps in different states and took out a whole load of people that were not doing anything wrong at all. The Hootery group was just recently exonerated of any and all crimes because the FBI stooge that they stuck in there was the guy with the plan showing them how to make explosives. He was also the guy who was telling them that they should go blow up government buildings, maybe shoot a politician. So you have to remember that these things eventually are beginning to actually come out and come out correctly. So, and it was Michigan, I believe, a Hootery group. You've got these people all over the place who have political clubs, and they may not be anything near what you might think they are. It could be it could be a book club. You don't know, so you have to search it out. First, I'm going to emphasize: do the neighbor routine. You may bump into the commander of the local militia. You don't know, so and the only way to find out is to show that you're a patriot and show that you believe that there's some problems we need to address. And has he got any ideas about it? Oh, I don't get into politics. Well, you talk to some of these hillbillies, rednecks, people people that deal with it on a real basis. And if you see the word government or politician, generally they turn red, the blood vessels pop out, and they say things that you wouldn't say anywhere around a church. And that's their opinion. Okay, then you ask them, well, would you like to try to do something about that? Well, I got something for them. Tell them to come on through my front door. Well, that is not as such the correct answer. The correct answer is to, okay, I know how you feel. You told me about that. I got a question. Can all of us get together here in the neighborhood, maybe have a barbecue and talk about maybe buddying up, making sure that everybody's got something to eat if something did happen? I mean, it wouldn't take but one really good earthquake, and all the bridges on the Mississippi could go. And if you're on the wrong side of the river, you might have a problem. Or if somebody needs something, maybe you could, somebody has something that they need or can do something for them or exchange services. I mean, a lot of different ways, as many as there are fingerprints on people. So, but the localization, in terms of the importance of it, is astronomical. And the reason I'm saying this is that in order to clean up a state, each of the individuals in that state need to take a hands-on approach and figure out who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and who they might want to see taking over that office or being the person who would give a town or a county direction. I mean, you don't got to be super educated. You don't have to be a rocket scientist in terms of brains. All you got to be is honest. And if you can find a person that's honest enough that it's painful to be around them, that's your candidate.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I get that. You talked about elections, and I want to ask you a couple of things about specifically voting rights acts, the necessity of showing certain types of documentation at a polling place. Right now, you basically can't vote unless you are registered. And the registration process for that is in itself an adhesion contract under the current voting laws, which stem basically back to the 14th Amendment. The voting process that you are envisioning, how will that operate in terms of who may vote and where they would vote?
Okay. If somebody's voted before, they're grandfathered in. And I don't care who don't like it, that is the law. If somebody wants to challenge somebody on that, then they have to prove that they didn't vote when they did, and they have their signature. So you can create a real serious problem for the fun and games that the intended control legislation, regulation, etc. provides.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
A follow-up to that is simply this. You take a person like me, I do not vote at the current time because I will not sign voter registration forms or join a political party. I have not voted in 11 years in any major elections, and my name officially would have rolled off of voter registration rolls many years ago.
Well, that's not altogether true, because somewhere you have a record that shows that you voted. It might be microfilm and squirreled away somewhere, but I did some checking, and I'm on record as voting from the state I came from, and that was quite a few years ago. Now, as far as a registration, okay, here is the concept as I understand it. That is that you either have voted in the last election, as an example. In your case, you have not. If you've got a utility bill that's got your address on it, and you're willing to sign to vote, and I'm not saying join anything or agree to anything other than the fact that it tests that you have voted today, would that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now you understand about free and honest and open elections with paper ballots. Very simple. You fill out a ballot, and you sign it, sucker. Done. No big deal. The only proof that you need that you live in the area and you're voting in the right place is your address on a utility bill, as an example. It's no big deal. This has been done. This has been the standard practice for years. One of the things they're doing with ID validation is to bring a utility bill and a picture ID with you, basically. And, you know, you can have a picture ID and it's got your picture and your name, address, and that's it. There you are. And it agrees with the utility bill, and you're done.
So effectively a Costco card would work.
Yeah, if it's got your picture on it.
All right. That goes into the area of birth certificates and the straw man and what happens as we move into this system. Is part of this process going to be a redemption on the straw man accounts?
Okay, what you're dealing with is a take, and I mean a take, on what are called the collateral global accounts.
Yes.
In other words, they are illegally leveraging money out of the global settlement accounts through that system. What has to be understood is that system is not lawful. It is unconstitutional. You cannot have two entities being one and the same. It don't work. One of the basic physical lessons I learned was that you can't have two things in the same place at the same time or it explodes. So the alternative to that is dealing with people's normal signature, their normal persona, the real person. Now, I don't mind the idea of a birth certificate validating the date you were born. I don't think that's, extraordinary. However, take that little red number off there, or blue number, or the yellow watermark that stipulates that you are securitized and creates the straw man. Let's do away with the gobbledygook. This would be a part of doing the dishes in terms of house cleaning. So you're talking about take everything that you know, everything you're familiar with, and divide by common law. That in and of itself either equals zero, in which case that whatever you're dealing with is valid, or it negates it if you get anything other than zero. You have to understand that linguistics and laws are mathematical. And in a mathematical state, 1 minus 1 equals 0. That is a validation, or what's called a proof. And the proof is divide by 0 or subtract it from what you see. And if there's anything left over, whatever you're dealing with is not valid. The Constitution, I believe it is, states that anything that is found to be contrary to the Constitution is to be stricken as if it never existed, and that anything that has been adjudicated by it or through it is to be rectified. Now, that rectification might cost these banks even more money. So, you're talking about, as an example, people being stripped, and we're dealing right now with what would be known as monarchy law in terms of the straw man, the basis being the LIBOR and the Bar Association, among others, that are tied directly to the old-fashioned monarchy in England. Seems they owe us some cash, among other things, and an apology. That answer it?
Okay. Yeah, I believe it does, Drake. Thank you. You had mentioned earlier in other interviews about the Pope being deposed or stepping down, and this goes into sort of an international scale in terms of taking down the Vatican, not the Catholic Church, but the Vatican itself, which is very much a monarchy and a power structure within itself, which has ties within North America, mainly through Jesuits who very early in the history of the country made heavy incursions into our social structure and our governmental structure. Can you tell me the impact of this in terms of taking apart the Vatican power structure and taking apart the Jesuit influence as well?
Both of those, along with varying political arms of different religious groups, will have a choice. Leave or live in a FEMA camp. Pretty simple. Now, as far as the Vatican itself, it's got some serious problems. One of the reasons the Pope is resigning is because of the
pedophilia.
Well, yeah, you can call it that. I'm going to say something a little different than that. That's not the only crime. So the controversy that deals with what's going on and what has happened, is the main reason given. I would accept that because the problem is that the Pope is going to be prosecuted just like some of these other politicians and bankers for crimes. Now, how many crimes? Well, figure out how many thousands of people have been injured, and you understand the severity of the crime. I'm going to tell you that some crimes, and it varies, are worse than others. As far as considering a sin, something that is bad, something as small as a little white lie or as large as slow intentional murder are all considered just basically sin. Sin is the thing where you go against the morality provided by God. This is contained within the Golden Rule. So, I'm not sure about some of how that will come out. What I am sure of is that the more severe the crime in terms of numbers, in terms of the reasons, will dictate whether or not these people are